Hello, this is Anthony Fasano, Executive Director for the New York State Society of Professional Engineers. I'm here once again with our Legislative Counsel, Mark Chris, and I want to firstly thank our Platinum Sustaining members for sponsoring these video updates. And in today's video update, we want to talk a little bit about the November elections. It's been a little while now. The dust has settled a bit. Obviously, we don't know if the dust will ever settle with our national president. I mean, President-elect Trump was obviously a shock to a lot of people. We are hearing that, it may boost infrastructure spending, and we'll see how that trickles down to New York. Really, what we want to focus on today here is the elections in New York and how they may have an impact on professional engineers. So for that, Mark.
Well, I think the key here is looking at the New York State Senate, which is the last bastion of power for the Republican Party on the state level. Essentially, we've had a series ever since George Pataki of Democratic governors. This is the fourth Democratic governor. The governor's into his second term, likely to run again. And the real issue, as I said, is the New York State Senate, because the Assembly has, for the last 2 decades at least, had veto-proof majorities greater than 100 members who are Democratic in a House that has 150 seats. So that's pretty well established. And the Senate is a real interesting crazy quilt of powers that are operative. And when I say that is there's 63 senators, and in order to have control of the chamber, you need to have 32 of the votes.
Sure.
Now, the Republicans actually only have 31, so you would think, consequently, the Democrats have control, and there's been a lot of push by the Working Families Party and some other groups to have the governor try to intervene and coalesce the Democrats into one voice in the Senate. But that hasn't been the case. And it's really, the executive is a separate branch of government, and the governor is going to be the governor. He's not in charge of, coalescing all the Democrats in the Senate conference. So what we do have in the Senate are the 31 Republicans, and then there's one Democrat, Simcha Felder, who is from Brooklyn, who is a very conservative legislator from the standpoint of social issues like abortion.
Okay.
He's more akin to being a Republican than a Democrat on a lot of those social kinds of issues, and he's conferenced with the Republicans for the last 2 terms at least, and he's indicated that he's going to be continuing the conference with them. So that really gives them 32 votes. Now on the Democrats, the other Democrats legislative analysis, there's 24 mainline Democrats, and there are 7 Democrats who are part of what's called the Independent Democratic Conference that have been a bit more moderate than the mainline Democrats.
Okay.
And they've historically worked in a power sharing arrangement. Sometimes it's in one particular instance where they actually, when necessary to get over the 32 vote number, they actually had co-leadership with the Republicans.
So they had a lot of power because they could sway it either way. Basically.
Correct.
Okay.
And now they still offer a buffer to make certain that the Republicans, if somebody's missing, you can't have a vote. I mean, there are. It's very tenuous when you only have a 32 vote majority, and you need all 32 votes.
So how does all this stuff, engineers and engineering companies out there, what do they need to know about this? Is there anything that has changed? Is there anything that's going to look different?
Not really. I mean, we'll talk about in future videos some of the issues we're facing with, for example, issues in the civil justice reform area where we want to move legislation like the statute of repose, or legislation that deals with indemnification, or even the emergency responder legislation. That has been a bit of an issue, but it almost doesn't matter. Those issues, we have more favorable environment with the Republican-controlled Senate, but we've still got a big hurdle in the Assembly. So
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, all of this it's essentially the same status quo. So those types of changes need a new paradigm to ferment more and move forward. And with regard to other issues, we're just going to see what unfolds. Hopefully, this issue fixing the garage legislation, if we have to do a bill, I think people are amenable to that. It's just the right. It's the right vehicle we need because the objective is clear.
Now, let me ask you this. I know this is more of a national issue. I mentioned, President-elect Trump calling for infrastructure improvements and spending and funding, and NSPE is looking into that. But just in general, from a New York standpoint, if a president comes in and tries to do something like, really putting in money towards infrastructure funding, I mean, how long, are we talking years before something like that could trickle down to New York, or could it be quicker than that?
Well, if you recall, when we had the $800 billion initiative under Obama in the wake of the collapse of Salomon Brothers and the crisis that was engendered in 2007, 2008, they were looking for shovel-ready projects, and I'm not certain how much actually got implemented. I know a lot of money went to shoring up the financial services industry then, and not the same level of monies were devoted to infrastructure as we had hoped. So I don't really know. I know there are things out there. I mean, the governor hasn't told us how he's going to finish paying for the Tappan Zee Bridge, for example.
Right.
So there are things that are there, and not only are they shovel ready, they're beyond the shovel.
Right. Yeah. Well, so as you hear from Mark, there's nothing dramatically changed as far as what we're doing locally on the local level. We're going to continue to do what we're doing. Who knows? There might be some benefits that trickle down from infrastructure spending, but we're not going to know that right now. But we are going to keep you posted by continuing to do these videos, and we thank you for all your support with them.